Hello everybody and welcome to the Casual Gamecast, a weekly video game podcast for the everyday gamer, brought to you by the team at Casual Game Content and friends. And this week I am joined by some of the most lovely boys in the business. I am joined by Shane Bowe. Say hello, Shane Bowe.
Hello, Shane Bowe.
I am joined... It gets me every time. I am joined by the Platinum Jack. Say hello, Jack.
Hello, everybody.
And I am joined by Seamus, aka Maroxide. Say hello, Maroxide, aka Seamus. You tell us what you want to be called.
Hello, Maroxide, aka Seamus. You tell us what you want to be called.
My God, he's got the memory of a sphinx. Yes, that's right, guys. We are back again this week. After last week, we just couldn't get it together, but you got a bonus 20 questions. So, everybody wins. So, what's happening? This week, we are talking about gaming monopolies and the pros, the cons, and where this could all lead. And that's obviously on the back of Activision buying up all of gaming last month. And of course, Sony doing their bit and so on and so forth. But we'll get into all that in a minute. Before we do anything, I want to ask, how the hell are we? Shane, how's your week been, dude?
Good. People probably know this from the podcast, but I started a new job. So I've been jobbing. I'm now a desk jockey. I get to sit all day and stare at screens until the eyes fall out of my head.
Welcome to my life.
Yes, and then I get to finish my job and then go stare at more screens while I play video games. So, welcome to blindness by the time you're 40.
Woo! Yep.
Love it.
Quick tip, absolutely. Get a lot of vitamin D gummies.
Oh yeah.
Vitamin D is important, but I find when it's in gummy form, I never forget to take it.
I just got paid, so I would be
Phil,
on the way to.
They're not suppositories.
Oh crap! Right.
Ooh.
Oh well, that's what I get for reading the bottle upside down.
Thank God you cleared that up, because I would have bought them too and just naturally assumed straight up there, right? Just
I don't know. I don't know. I feel pretty vitamin D rich, regardless. I don't know. But good to hear it, man. Welcome to a life of cubicle monotony.
Yes.
Jack, it's been a couple of weeks since we've last had you, and it's not your fault because we were meant to have you a couple of times and things just kept falling through. How are you?
I think I've not been too bad. Thank you very much. How have you all been? It's been a while since I've been on.
It has. You moved house. The last time you were on, I think, or the last time we were meant to have you on at the very least, you were in the process of moving. How did that go?
Yeah. Oh man, that was not worth the hassle.
No.
Moving never is, but my God, what a hassle that was. And well, other things have happened since then, but they're stories for another time, because there's one in particular I don't think anyone will ever believe.
Right. Well, we're going to have to catch you back for that one, I guess.
Yeah.
And you have your lovely doggo with us this week as well. What's the lovely doggo's name?
Good old Sasha. Yes. Yeah, I could pick her up and show her to the camera, but.
No, we're only inviting audio problems upon ourselves at this point. Shane, you can run down and grab Roisin. Maybe we can have a little pop date.
Oh yeah, I'll get Roisin and Remy up here. I'll have one each side of me.
Yeah. Very good. And of course, this week we are joined by Maroxide. Seamus, how the hell are you? It's a delight to have you here.
Oh no, thanks for having me on, guys. A couple of things I want to say about Jack first. I've known Jack for years.
Okay, he's got a lot to get off his chest here, people. Okay, go.
No. Every time I seem to talk to Jack, he's moving house.
Yeah, that seems to be the case, alright. Yeah.
Don't think it's like, oh, he's moving house. It's such a progressive thing. He'll be gone again from there in 6 months' time. I don't know if he's a bad tenant or he just doesn't like taking out long-term leases.
No, well,
fair, the last house was 2 years.
This is how you move around. The Illuminati's always watching. Just keep moving.
True.
The only thing I will say is, Fano, you didn't bring up the most important thing ever.
Oh,
we lost to China a long time ago. Can't forget that stream either.
So, Jack's the reason I started streaming.
Right.
I'll give you some backstory about me anyway. So yeah, I stream just about everything. Same as all the rest of you, so I'm very casual. But Jack's the reason I started streaming because I wanted to show off a boss rush thing for a game called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon.
Yes, no,
I was obsessed with. And then I did Bloodborne. This was in the same stream. And I was talking to Jack, and all of a sudden, he just started snoring. Uncontrollably started snoring. So nice. I was like, okay, Jack, come on. You're taking the mick, lad. And then I was like, okay, maybe he is asleep. So I rang him on the phone. And you can hear him going like... Hello. And I'm like, Jack. He's like, yeah. I'm like, Jack, yeah, you're asleep. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm like, Jack, we can hear you snoring on the stream. Oh, really? I'm like, go to bed, Jack. He goes, no, I'm awake now.
I may as well keep streaming now.
And
this was only what, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the day, like.
Yeah, this was pretty, like, I mean, it was
You're
in
a
the
sleepy
summer
boy.
as well.
Yeah, which
Yep,
makes it
yep.
worse.
I'll forgive him though.
It was a warm, sleepy day. What can
much.
you do? What can
Pretty
you
much.
do? And speaking of streaming, I never actually asked you. Maroxide, first of all, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Maroxide.
Good stuff. And Twitter?
It's all the same across the board.
There we go. And Jack, where can people find your lovely self?
So over on Twitch you can find me at the Platinum Jack, but there is underscores between the Platinum and Jack. Whereas on Twitter you can find me at the exact same, just without the underscores.
Lovely. Absolutely beautiful. And with that, let's crack on in to the topic of the show. So, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Editor Man in the box, play that thing! It's the topic of the show. And this week's topic of the show is, of course, Video Game Monopolies. A very vague title for a very vague discussion. So, last month, there was an endless stream, it seemed, of video game acquisitions. Coming from every direction, mostly from Microsoft and Sony, but there was a lot of other ones in there. If you want to peel back the onion and see the layers underneath, there's people buying stuff left, right, and center, it seems, at the moment. And this is our way to kind of discuss. The biggest one of note, of course, last month was Microsoft, who had bought Microsoft, Blizzard, and King, I believe, for the princely sum of 69 billion or something. Was that the rough figure? And after only just 2 months prior maybe, buying Bethesda, the Western RPG giant, for a princely sum of about 7 billion, which seems like nothing now in the grand scheme of things. After only about 2 years ago, Star Wars and Marvel was sold for like 4 billion. It's like, these things, like, it's just, you hear 7 billion now and you go, wow, that's a steal, It's crazy. But yeah, they were the biggest ones then, and we're going to get into some of the other ones now. But I wanted to kind of open this up first of all and ask around, and kind of what we tend to do here is we ask every person, I say topic, you say. So I'm going to go around and ask you guys that. Shane, I'm going to start with you, as I always do, because I like to pick on you.
Yeah.
I say Video Game Monopolies, and you say...
Boo. Bad for business. Well, probably good for business.
Is it though?
But bad. Well, for some guy in a suit in a boardroom somewhere. Good for business, bad for creativity and fun games to play.
Yeah, traditionally anyway, the idea of a monopoly doesn't really bear fruit in terms of creativity, in terms of, I guess, benefit for the consumer, that type of stuff. But yeah, no, that's your take. Seamus, Mr. Maroxide yourself. I say Video Game Monopolies, you say.
Bullshit. No, but like, I would be the same. Yeah, it looks good on the stock market. It looks good in a boardroom, but the consumer is the person who loses out here. Like, you're literally taking all these different creative minds and throwing them together into projects they probably don't want to work on.
Maybe, depending on the parent company, I think.
There is another part to it though. Please, someone buy Konami.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is we'll get into that in a moment. I've got hot takes on that too. But you are on the same track as me, my friend. Jack, I say Video Game Monopolies, and you say
I like money.
I like money.
But yeah, no, that's basically all this is anymore. Is just a case of they're buying out these companies just so they can make these companies exclusive or timed exclusive or whatever they can do, just so they can push their consoles and make that extra bit more money. Like, at the same time though, this could be fantastic for the likes of cross-platform or anything else like that. But until later times, it's hard to tell.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think that there is kind of a muddied water here because they haven't shown their evil card yet, Microsoft, in terms of the gaming world in the last 2 generations. They've been quite good. And so the fact that they control what is pretty much an insidious, work base in Activision Blizzard. It seems like a positive at this moment, but it could all just flip on its head one day, who knows. But yeah, we'll get into that. So my own personal opinion, when I say gaming monopolies, I think it's like the word monopoly has a negative connotation apart from the board game in general. Like I don't think it's something anybody goes, oh cool, a monopoly. It's obviously bad for the consumer as a whole. For like if one company now, like Tencent and Embracer Group and all these other ones that are just buying up the landscape, if in 10 years time they own everything, obviously that's bad. You don't want one person owning everything. However, if there is talent that's out there that's getting just railroaded by the fact that their developer is pretty insidious, because like I'll get into it in more detail in a moment, but an awful lot of gaming companies are run pretty badly from bad practice built up over years of us being a kind of infant industry. It has kind of made for a bad working environment and for really bad pressure where you're not sure if you're going to have your job next week. And, there's a lot of like really bad points of working in this industry. And if being owned by a major corporation all of a sudden levies that a little bit, I can see the benefits, So it's great. It's great. I'm a grey guy when it comes to monopolies, okay? But yeah, with that. So let's jump right into it. So Microsoft in particular, let's use this first half here to talk about the Microsoft acquisitions and just kind of focus in on that and kind of what that means for gaming and, what it kind of means for history in general. So as I mentioned earlier, $68 billion. It sounds like a Dr. Evil quote whenever I say it out loud. For Activision, makers of Call of Duty, Blizzard, makers of World of Warcraft, and King, makers of Candy Crush. But like they're, even without talking about all the other, franchises there, and we're going to go around the room to talk about those, I'm sure. But even without mentioning anything else, those three things, like just their top billers are billions and billions a year companies, So like it's incredible that they've just kind of took their pocket change and bought these things and just made their portfolio like at least twice, if not three times as appealing as it was this time last year, I don't know. I'm just going to open up to the table here. Shane, I'm going to pick on you first, but guys, let's keep this free and open and you can jump in at any point. But, Shane, what's your take on the Microsoft acquisition?
I think it's smart in terms of like PR. That's a big splashy headline that puts Microsoft all over the front page of even regular newspapers had this on it. Like the Daily Star or whatever. Like everyone was talking about it.
Yep.
So in terms of PR, it was relatively cheap, I suppose. 68 billion quid. Not a nice cheap PR campaign. Like, so it's great for them because they bought a big, like, they're like, we just bought Bethesda. Well, guess what? Now we're going to buy like the next biggest video game company in existence because we can, and we're Microsoft. So in that way, wonderful. We all know exactly why they're doing it. It's just to drive people to Xbox and Game Pass.
Yep, absolutely.
Once all the deals run dry with whatever properties they have just owned now that they bought Activision, once all those deals and the games have to be here, it's going to be, Game Pass, the home of Call of Duty. Game Pass, the home of Warcraft or whatever. It's all going to be come to Game Pass to get this thing. So it's a smart move. It's a really smart move.
Well, that is 90% of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it is a case of, I'm sure there was a bit of a tactician element to it where they did go like, oh, this will stick it to Sony. And it did. Like that week, Sony, even though this is ridiculous, this is absolutely ridiculous. But the week that happened for Microsoft, Sony stock dropped 10 points. Because all of a sudden the stock market got scared and then they were like, what's Sony going to do to counteract this? And of course Sony bought Bungie for 3.6 billion very soon after that. However, that didn't happen over the course of a week. You know what I mean? That was in place for months, I'm sure. And then it finally comes out, just happens to be around that time. And then people are like, oh, they're after fighting back. It's like, no, this is not how that works. Like, I didn't just go like, oh, who Bungie. We'll buy Bungie. But like
They're
the
not
fact,
Bruce Wayne. Like, you don't just pick up. You don't just, Alfred, get Bungie on the phone. Here, Bungie, here's like £6 billion. We own you now. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just make these whim purchases like that when you're a massive corporation.
Absolutely, and like Microsoft is so in bed with everyone in the Western tech market. Like, they've been involved in video games even before the Xbox, and they've been involved in so many different pieces. Like, my company that I work for has worked closely with Microsoft in the past. They've got like these really long tendrils that have infected the entire world. And so when they go around to say, like, all right, I'm interested in buying your company, they've gotten in. You can guarantee Phil Spencer had a contact that had an in with like the guy who ran finances in Activision. That was like an open door. Like, he was just able to walk in there and throw that up on the board and just go, how about this much? Like, I'd say that negotiation was easier than you would imagine, considering who it was and the state of Activision at that time.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Phil Spencer, he's another one. I'll get to him in a minute, but he's another one that worries me in the video game industry.
Yeah, he kind of has the Willy Wonka thing going, where like, he seems like he's untouchable, but one of these days he's going to get on that big wheel boat and things are going to get nuts.
Yeah. That's but yeah, look here, we're taking all the airtime here. I'm sure the lads have opinions as well.
No, well, like, I being a World of Warcraft guy and all that, like, not anymore, thank God. Cut the addiction, folks.
Stay strong, brother.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's such an odd thing for me to see the Blizzard be bought out by someone, because 10 years ago they were the biggest company on the planet when it came to game. They were making the biggest profit turnovers, had the highest subscriber base, and now it's basically Microsoft's plaything that they can kind of do what they want with. And if they add stuff like World of Warcraft and stuff like that to Game Pass, then the World of Warcraft subscriber, even though it'll go up, the people who actually genuinely put the time and effort into playing that game will all leave because of the fear of it just being ignored after that. Like, the amount of money that Blizzard make off of that game with their subscriptions and their you can buy like levels and mounts and whatever else, like the amount of money they made off that though alone kept them going for so long, and like allowed them to make things like Overwatch and take chances with things as well, like StarCraft 2 and stuff like that. You gotta remember, like, even to that, it's actually such a big acquisition for Microsoft, because StarCraft 2 brought esports to the world. It brought it on a worldwide basis. It was the first big proper esport. Absolutely. And now that's owned by Microsoft. I just think it's insane. It's such a good acquisition.
It is, and like, it's Activision laid the groundwork for many years, like by going around throwing their Call of Duty money around, buying up other companies. That Blizzard acquisition of theirs, that paved the way now for Microsoft to be able to buy 3 huge things in one go. But like, Blizzard is one of those examples of a visionary company, but of its time. So like, when it was around first, it was doing things that people had never done before, and you can't take that away from them, of course. But it also is known to be one of the most like toxic workplaces in existence, especially if you are not male. It's because, but this is just because of the infancy of our industry. Like, that's a company that was started by a couple of dudes, and then it was run by a couple of dudes, and it was the same couple of dudes with the same culture that just never had to change because it was working, and then things stopped working, and then it started surfacing or whatever. But like, these are one of these companies that, like, they have all this promise and all these IPs that are so strong and a legacy, but their name was just run into the ground, especially over the last 5 years. Blizzard has really been hanging on by a string on a PR level. Like, they've just, like, they've had to let so many CEOs go. They've had to, like, just cover up a lot of stuff, a lot of payouts in court cases and what have you. And I know personally, this is including Activision, I was ready to kind of boycott anything that came out of those studios in the next, year or two at the very least, just to kind of stand by a lot of the workers that were having problems over the last couple of years. Like, it's not ideal. You want obviously people's work to be seen and to be played and whatever, but it kind of got to a point of like, okay, we need to make a stand so that this doesn't keep happening. But because of that loss of face, I think this is the reason that Bobby Kotick was happy enough to just let it all go, you know, and that Blizzard and what have you are now under Phil Spencer's tutelage. And what I mentioned earlier about the grey space that I feel about with this Monopoly thing is, with the right leadership, it could be a good thing. You know, like, all of a sudden, Bobby Kotick isn't involved anymore. The leaders of Blizzard don't have their overarching say anymore. If Xbox and Microsoft are able to roll out like a better way of life for their developers, this is a huge bonus for anybody that's underneath that umbrella, you know?
Yeah, that's a good... there's a good thing side to Monopoly. Monopoly is such a, like, dirty word, you know. Someone says Monopoly, you're like, oh, big evil corporation, but there is advantages. There is, you know, like you said, like, a lot of these people now could get a chance to flourish and make great games, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
That they don't just get folded into some other, like, oh, you're really good at level design, here, go work on the next fucking Halo or Forza or whatever, you know.
But that's the bonus here. Like, you know, they have been showing that they are willing to let their studios work like unabated at whatever the hell they want to do, just with the support when they need it and more money, you know. And that's like, look at Ninja Theory making Hellblade 2. Like, apparently they're just super backed off from that and just went, you have a great concept here, how much money in PR can we give you? And it's after working out fantastically from what we've seen so far. But like, if that's the attitude that they keep using, amazing. But like, Seamus, you said something interesting there where you were talking about World of Warcraft and how the ability for them to be able to roll that into Game Pass could be a negative effect on that game. And I would have thought the opposite. I would have thought, wow, surely like more user numbers equates to the game getting more attention, getting more support, you know, getting the name back out there. Because World of Warcraft has kind of died a bit over the last couple of years. And I would have thought that like, you get the taster for free. Like, it's like Final Fantasy 14 or whatever. You get like the first expansion for free or whatever it is, but then you pay for the rest. But you're building out that ecosystem and people are buying hats, you know.
Well, just where it comes from for me, like, if you were obviously like in Ireland, you paid €13 a month for a subscription for that. Game Pass is already cheaper than that. Game Pass already has hundreds of other games that it has to supply resources to.
Yes.
And companies, and you know, so you're automatically cutting what these people who are already working on the game, the servers, and you know, the support and all that. You're automatically cutting that, you know, tenfold already, as to how many people can be, you know, employed by it and support it, and how many developers you have on, how many people you have on to, you know, moderate the servers, etc. Because it's now gone from earning €13 a month per person to earning, you know, it could be as low as, you know, €1 a person that's paying from the cut from Game Pass.
Yeah, I can see kind of where your line of thought is, but I'd be very surprised if that was like, you know, you get so if we have 100 games on Game Pass and you're one of them, that you get 100 of the price. You know, like, I think it is quite, like, from what I've understood, and they've been very cagey about how this all works, but from what I have understood, if you have a game on Game Pass, it's really like performance based is what you get paid out on. Now, I don't know if that's true for first party stuff like World of Warcraft would be now, because like Halo, I'm sure just like, you know, that's just our game, man, like, you know. Yeah, but like, I don't know what way it would work then for Blizzard, of course, but like, you have to imagine that there's like some kind of, if you have Game Pass, you get like a discount, or you get, like I said, like with like Final Fantasy 14 is after trailblazing this whole, like, you just get the first 2 expansions for free. It's like 80 hours worth of content or more. It's like, yeah, just go for it. But by doing that, the coffers have just been blown off. Like, they had to stop selling that game because they couldn't afford to have any more people on their servers. Like, you know, it's these types of things when kind of taught out well can make for like a massive gain, because all of a sudden you're not like, it's kind of like you're getting those people that would never pay for €13 a month in, and then they stay because all of a sudden they're addicted, you know. So you're getting that kind of double market now, you know.
Do they
Possibly.
purchase swords or hats or mount armor or
Absolutely.
I think
I
with-
nearly did it myself. I went in on the free Final Fantasy 14 thing, and I seen some guy riding around on Ifrit or something, and I was like, I gotta have it.
Okay,
I
that's
gotta
pretty
have
cool.
it. And I looked it up, and it was like €40. I was like, I don't gotta have it, but I really want it.
Not that dope. Though.
Yeah. But I think something like Warcraft, in terms of Microsoft owning it and putting it on Game Pass, will be very much looked at from a performance metric. It's like, are people playing it, and are they spending money on microtransactions, and is it profitable or whatever? And if it is, it will continue to get support, and servers will be continue to support it and moderate it and all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. But if it starts to slip in terms of player base and microtransactions, that's where the problem comes in for Microsoft owning it.
And this is
It's
like
not-
this has come back to like the monopoly thing, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it as well, doesn't it? Because like all of a sudden it's like, well, that's a first party game that clearly, to Seamus' point, makes like 13 quid a month. Does it still make 13 quid a month when it's folded in? Because like it has to be, at least on PC, it has to be on Game Pass at some point in some way.
Yeah.
You don't buy that without putting that on there. Because like the whole point of this acquisition and all of their acquisitions is that Game Pass needs to be the next Netflix. Like this is what they've already done, and this is just making sure that they can solidify that, and I have a point about this for positivity for monopolies as well, but we'll get back to that. Jack, what do you think about all this, man?
Honestly, it's a mixed bag. I really don't know how to feel about it either way, because I see so many people saying, oh, it's going to be fantastic, we're going to have stuff like Warcraft on Game Pass, like you're all saying. But I think that the main reason that's going to be good is you're going to have the likes of all the Call of Duties on Game Pass. You're going to have Overwatch. You possibly could get StarCraft and the likes. You could get any of the Activision Blizzard games. Hell, you could get all the Crash Bandicoots and Spyros now because they're
I'd
owned
say
by
so.
Activision.
I guarantee it. I'd say, yeah.
So, like, fair enough. I don't. On one hand, I'm not really the biggest fan of Xbox taking over the likes of Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, because anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Crash Bandicoot fan, and well,
Yeah.
they originated on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could be something fantastic to see another company actually have a fresh set of eyes overseeing it all. Because now, don't get me wrong, Crash hasn't really gotten stale, but they took it too far with 4, in my opinion. So it'd be nice to see them reel it back in a little bit, but at the same time keep some of that charm there. You
Yeah,
get what
the
I mean?
gritty reboot. They kill his parents. It's going to be amazing.
That would be beautiful. I would pay for that, because that would be hilarious.
It would be pretty good, actually.
It's like Crash Bandicoot, the laughing joke version.
Yeah.
The last of the Bandicoots.
Yeah,
But
he
no,
must
it's-
repopulate the earth.
But no, the only thing I will say is I didn't
Duke
understand.
Bandicoot?
I am half Bandicoot, I'll have you know.
But
yeah, no, you're right.
Disabled, and they can call him the Bandamute.
And like it raises a question, right? That just stepping away from the Bandicoot talk, it raises a question around, and I think this could be a nice topic for another podcast. Is when does Game Pass start costing more? Because if you have what you have today, I flicked through Game Pass 2 or 3 days ago just to kind of remind myself how many games there is there, and there's about 250 odd games on the motherfucker. Like it's extensive. And then you've got all the first parties. If they then rolled all these games into it like we're kind of expecting, like that's every Call of Duty, that's every Crash, that's everything like Activision. Like Activision is the oldest third-party developer in the world. Since the Atari, they were the first one. The very first
Are we going to
third-party.
get Adventure on it?
Could do! We could get fucking Pitfall! The world is ours, Seamus.
Jesus, Pitfall.
time.
Could you imagine that on Game Pass?
Do you know what I mean? But like the coffers that this has opened up, and Blizzard as well. Blizzard's old school too. Like they've got so many things in their catalog, and King and all the rest. Like surely if they did the same thing they've done so far with all their first party acquisitions, like Blizzard, or sorry, like Bethesda and all the rest, and they just added their back catalog to this thing. Do we have like a 1,000 Game Pass? And then like that can't be 15 quid a month anymore.
But that'd be too excessive as well, though.
Maybe it gets introduced with a tier system.
Maybe.
The way like
Maybe.
there's just a expansion to
Nintendo.
the Nintendo, exactly. Maybe you have to pay an extra couple of quid to have the Activision bundle. to have the Blizzard bundle, to have this, that, or the other.
Yeah,
Please don't.
that's where monopolies start becoming a problem again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I can
for
see
your
it.
extra
I can
£4,
see it, like,
yeah,
you know?
for your extra £4, bundle in act. It's like when you know, like Netflix, taking a prime example, you buy like Netflix, but if you want like 4K Netflix, it's extra. If you want extra screens, it's extra. They're going to start doing all that crap, and this brings me to Mr. Phil Spencer and my problem with him.
Okay, get your agenda out there.
This is why I have the pencil here. Look,
Plays really well over audio.
so yeah, it really does. I'm waving a pencil around people just in pure anger and madness, like a
business
crazy
mode.
person.
furious,
Yeah,
furious pencil swiping.
Yeah, right. So a good few years ago, this is going to take a tiny bit of explaining, but it won't take long, I promise.
Okay, we're going to take a break after this, so be concise.
A lot of years ago, I watched an interview with Frank Zappa, who said it best, and Phil Spencer gives me these vibes, okay? Frank Zappa said, when the guys in suits, the businessmen, were the head of the record companies, you had a lot more creative freedom, because they went, yeah, make the record, we'll give it a try, we'll put it out, we'll see what it makes. He said the problem started when the guys who came in, who were young and hip and cool and knew music and knew what the kids wanted, is when the art and the making of the album started becoming more like, you know, oh no, you have to do it this way because this is what the kids want to listen to. You have to do it this way. Phil Spencer gives me those fucking vibes. That eventually we're going to go, games need to be made like this because this is what the market wants and this is what the kids want. And your game has to be this way. And eventually then, like, we get sterile games.
Okay, like, but counterpoint to that, like, you know, I get it, and that's right. Like, he's 100% correct in the music industry. And Frank Zappa,
I know that's just,
you know,
Zappa was just an example of.
No, but I love Zappa. I think you're right. I think he's on the money. But the problem is that, like, with the gaming industry, it has been shown for the last 20 years that the fucking suits are the problem. You know, like, they're the ones that are forcing the what the kids want narrative, and people like Spencer. I'm not saying Spencer's a saint. Like, he's going to show his devil horns one of these days, and, you know, the sword of Damocles will come down on us all. But, like, he has been the guy that's been kind of championing that, like, you know, like, he makes some really deep cut references, like, casually about games. Like, he's grown up with games, he understands them, but he's also says, like, I'm not an art director, I'm not a game director or whatever. Like, I know how to make business happen, but I understand when to step away, you know. And, like, that's something we've not seen at a CEO level before, you know. And, like,
yeah.
I think you are right. If that happens, we're fucked. But at the same time, it seems like the opposite's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right now, no. He just gives me those vibes, though, with that stuff you're talking about. I grew up with games. I played this. I know all the stuff about games. And I know right now he's not doing any of that, but I feel like, I don't know, much like kind of like Willy Wonka or something, when he amasses enough power and enough studios or whatever, then he turns the light switch and he's like, I know what everybody wants. You will play the games that I want you to play.
At the end of the day, he answers to shareholders just like any CEO. Like, I mean, like, once they turn the switch, then he has to, like, already lose his
very
job.
true. Very
yeah, absolutely. But having said that, sorry.
When are we going to see a Smash Bros. Xbox version? Now that they've acquired all these IPs.
That is a good point.
I thought the same thing when all this happened as well. Was like, they've got some roster to pull into now, like.
Yeah.
And we've had the PlayStation one already as well, so.
Yeah,
and we know how well that went.
Yeah.
I just want to play as
PlayStation did not do well with that.
But it would be cool, like, you know, you got Spyro and Crash up against the Master Chief and, you know, Marcus Phoenix.
Crash would clearly win.
Yeah, but even Blizzard has
Lost
such
Vikings.
a back catalogue of characters. Like, you know, Lost Vikings are in the mix.
Huge.
They could be like the Ice Climbers, just three of them coming around, you know. But like, no, like, big time. It's, and like, Shane, just to wrap this, I have to get this off my chest now because I just thought of a good example of why things I think are backways in terms of gaming for the Frank Zappa example.
Yeah.
Think about the Xbox One, not the Xbox Series, but the One.
Yeah, the one, yeah.
Do you remember when that was first revealed?
Oh yeah, what a shit show.
Do you remember all the suits that came out and told us that they knew what gaming was going to be like, and that we had to worry about entertainment and not gaming, and gaming should be secondary on the gaming console?
TV.
Yeah,
TV.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh look, you can watch your NFL on it. It's like, I don't give a fuck. I can do that on my TV already, you know. But like, yeah, they were the suits. They were the suits, and all of a sudden the guy with the cool T-shirt comes out, and now we've got Game Pass.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's I it's completely valid argument, and I do like right now. That's exactly what I can't argue with you that that's exactly what's happening in games right now. I can't.
I know.
That's
I
just
know.
the
I know.
vibe
Yeah.
I get off. That's the vibe I get off Phil Spencer. That one
Yeah.
of these days that's going to happen, and it's going to just be like you said, the sword of Damocles is going to come hammering down, and he's going to be like, I own the gaming industry now. You will play everything I play. But then again, it's down to shareholders, and a lot of shareholders are people in suits as well.
And there is a
Just want
shit
money.
ton of shareholders on Microsoft's board, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But with that, I have been my usual argumentative self, so how about we take a really quick break and we will come straight back to talk about, I think, the most interesting thing, which is how Microsoft and Sony have been kind of tit for tat lately. And then if there is some time, maybe a little bit more talk about Game Pass, maybe a little bit more talk about the Smash Bros. Who knows? Anyway, with that, let's take a break. Play that thing! Hey there! If you want to keep up with all things casual game content, you can do so in a number of ways. The easiest way to do so is to follow us on all of our socials at Casual Game Co. Not content because you only get 15 characters, but hey, what can you do? At Casual Game Co. That's at CASUALGAMECO. Can't be any simpler than that on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And when you're at Facebook, look for the group, the Casual Game Community. It's a good bunch. We're going to love you. Come on by. If you could do us a massive favor, like the podcast, review the podcast, and just tell a friend about the podcast. It goes a long way, and you can find all of our content on podcast forums wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Casual Game Cast. Thanks again for all of your help and all of your support. It means the absolute world to us. Now, back to the show. And we are back, lovely and relaxed after our balmy break. But here we are again. So let's continue the conversation around video game monopolies. Now, we kind of got into very specific things there a moment ago around like very specific games, what it might mean for them. The idea of, like, say, toxic workplaces being brought up and perhaps that being a silver lining for them and these types of things. But I kind of want to talk here on a grand scale. I'm not going to go around and ask you guys what you think. We are living in a world where obviously video game acquisitions are not new. I remember in the PS1 days hearing about these types of things happening, and video game companies get bought out whenever there's talent needed for a specific project, or whenever one is floundering, it's a good opportunity to buy it, or even buy competition to make your other competition die. It's just a way of business. But recently we are seeing like a deluge, like a wealth of acquisitions happening. This Activision one is obviously the big point to it. This is mental acquisition, but Bethesda, Bungie with Sony, all these things, like, they're big buys for big power play moves. And I want to know, what do we think when we look at that? We look at Microsoft, we look at Sony, we look at emerging markets like Tencent, we look at Embracer Group. They're just buying up all of the names that they possibly can, and it's getting very much like the big products of the world, the big five corporations that own absolutely everything that's in your shopping basket, and it's, it is negative realistically for the world, and that's why places like Aldi are a godsend. But, what is going to happen next? What do we feel if this acquisition trend keeps happening, keeps following? What do we feel is going to happen to our industry? Jack, I'm going to ask you, what kind of like dystopian apocalypse do you think we're going to be living in terms of gaming in 20 years?
Honestly, I don't see it going down the dystopian apocalyptic route. Like, don't get me wrong, we've the past year, 2 years have really seen these acquisitions blowing up, especially the past couple of months, given that Sony got Bungie, and then between Bethesda, Activision, and Blizzard from Microsoft. Now, that could be a sign of bad things. Not necessarily, but it could possibly be. But at the same time, this could actually start pushing more cross-platform play, more cross-platform games, could stifle creativity, could create more. Honestly, it's still quite early to be telling if we're going to be going down the route of a dystopian apocalyptic gaming future.
Yeah, I was being glib, of course, but yeah.
No, I know, I don't disagree with you. It could very easily happen, but I still find it quite early days to be saying, oh, it could be fantastic, could be terrible. By the looks of things at the moment, it could be a good move from both parties, but again, we can't say much at the moment. I can't say much at the moment anyway.
Of course, yeah. What about you, Seamus? What do you feel?
I'm quietly optimistic about something that no one has talked about yet.
Oh.
I think, like, you gotta think about it this way. Companies getting snapped up and stuff like that. It's very similar to people being fired from companies. And I think one of the big things that we're going to end up with out of this is a stronger indie industry.
I like what you're saying.
Like, if you look at, I remember mentioning earlier, I mentioned Bloodstained. That was a group of people who were fired from the Castlevania directors and cast from, like, they were originally guys from that wrote the games in the 90s.
Wow,
decided that
didn't
they
know
wanted to make games like Bloodstained Ritual of the, was it no? Is it Ritual of the Night?
Ritual of the Night, I believe.
Yeah,
Bloodstained
is
Ritual of the
a
Night,
spiritual successor to Castlevania, Symphony of the Night. So I think we could see, like, this is why I want someone to buy up Konami. This is strictly why I want someone to buy up Konami.
Yours for only 6.6 billion, I believe, or 5.6 billion. I think.
Have they put a figure out there? Are they looking for people to buy?
No, not necessarily. Just if you want to have a quick rundown, you could buy Sega for 3.6 billion.
Wait,
CD
where are you
Projekt
getting
Red
these? Where are you getting these numbers from?
Just from.
Do we start a GoFundMe?
From the internet. I know, it's just like, you know, around the time that Microsoft bought Activision, every gaming thing had every gaming website put out a list of, like, here's the other companies that, you know, Sony or Microsoft could buy, and here's what it would cost them. Sure. You know, this kind of thing. So, like, Konami, 6 billion is the market cap on Konami. Square Enix is only 5.9.
Like, before
Capcom for 4.9. You know, these
before
are all...
we put too much weight on those numbers, though, is that just like, here is what financial analysts have valued their net worth to be? Because I think that would be like the starting point of the conversation. Because like, you can imagine after Activision being bought, after Bungie being bought, after Bethesda being bought, like, you gotta imagine, like, any company like Konami, Capcom, like, in their boardroom, they're just rubbing their hands going, well, if big boy Sony or Microsoft comes through that door, we're bending them over the table and we're taking them for what they're worth, lads. You know, like, they're going to be putting up 10 billion onto that price. Like, and it's a seller's market.
This is purely based on what the market dictates this company is worth, you know, not bearing in mind any other big sales or any deals or anything. This is just what the market and the share price says this company is worth. Like, for example, what did they spend on Activision? 68 billion?
Yep.
According to its market value, you can buy Nintendo for 55.
Yeah, you can't.
You're never going to buy Nintendo, but
it's probably right. It's probably right in terms of, like, its net worth or whatever. And then you would just pay more, of course, for the legacy and the guaranteed sales and the user base. Like, that's the additional cost you're paying there. And then also, like, enough for people to be happy with the deal. But I don't think, like, this is another thing we can kind of splinter off into a little bit as well, is that, like, especially in Japan, like, those companies will never sell. You know, Konami might, because they are only holding on to it to kind of, like, you know, to fill their coffers whenever the pachinko halls are closed for 2 years. But, like, you know, Nintendo, I don't think would ever sell. I think that they could have 3 flops of consoles after another and be in debt, and they still wouldn't sell. I think that they've got too much skin in the game, too much honor almost to sell it.
Yeah.
Konami, I could see happening though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all Nintendo have to do is just release another virtual machine.
That's exactly it. That's all they need.
Virtual console, or
like, they're just literally, let's put you know, the Wii store up, and we're billions.
Absolutely.
Billions. Like,
even the Game
and
Boy store would be immense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, but isn't it crazy when you think about it that, like, Nintendo, I know, isn't the biggest company in the world, even though they do make, like, a silly amount of money for the, like, little amount of effort that they put, not effort, but, like, they put so little in terms of technology into their products, and they sell so much of them that their margins must be, like, fantastic in terms of profit. But, like, isn't it mental that they haven't gone out and acquired, like Sony with Bungie at the moment, who are, you know, they acquired Bungie, and within a week they came out and said that, well, in the next 3 years we want to have 10 live service games. That's the Bungie acquisition. That's what they did that for. Like, that's why Bungie's still allowed to put all their things out on every console because they didn't buy them for Destiny. They bought them for their knowledge, for their tech. Isn't it mental that Nintendo hasn't done that? For number one, for online gaming and stuff like that. But isn't it mental that they haven't done it for people who understand servers and understand, just web architecture, so that they could, and I know they're kind of doing it with Switch, but like that they could just have Nintendo Game Pass. Like if they had, like they have a back catalog of shit. Like they're closing down the Wii U and the 3DS store in the next year, and like a lot of that stuff is just gone. You can emulate it all day long, but like it's gone officially.
I honestly just think that's just so that they can put that stuff up on the Switch store.
I was about to say there's probably a Switch store incoming.
Well, 3DS stuff probably would never will.
Switch has a touchscreen,
Wii U
so
stuff.
I wouldn't say never.
We've seen a lot of remasters and stuff like that come true as well, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's so much that they don't. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff from the Super Nintendo days that they've just never looked at again. There's a lot of stuff from the Virtual Console that when that shut down, it's just still lost to time. Even when moving from the Wii to the Wii U, they left a lot of stuff behind. They're not concerned about video game preservation. It's just like whatever somebody tells them will make money for them. Even sometimes that, like Mother 3, if they just got a translator in to do Mother 3 for 3 months, how much money would that make? A stupid amount of money.
People have been asking it for years here.
Even reach out to the guy that did the original translation to say, hey, can we buy that? That's all it would take. But anyway,
look at the Chrono Cross remake.
It's just one of those things that Nintendo don't take risks. If something happens if they fall on good fortune with something, then they just that's fine. But like they've had so many successful first party stuff that they don't need to go looking. People have to go to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm going to give an example there. You look at Mario Kart 8. That was originally released on the Wii U. Then it got a re-release with the Wii U DLC of Link and his track, and the Animal Crossing character and their track on the Switch as Mario 8 Kart Deluxe, or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting its own DLC of another 48 tracks. Like, what I get, just Nintendo aren't really going out and buying these things, and they kind of throw things out all willy-nilly depending on which one sticks and whatever. Clearly, they kind of know what they're doing, because look at Mario Kart is the biggest example there. It's a re-release, but in the past 5 years, it's sold God knows how many copies to the point where they're actually going to release DLC for it rather than actually putting out in Mario Kart 9.
But you know why? And the reason why we love Nintendo, and the reason why Nintendo frustrates the shit out of us,
they don't sell their IPs to other parties.
Not even that.
Exactly.
That is true. Is that's a good thing in their favor. But the reason that we get frustrated by them is that they don't do the things that all the other video game companies do in terms of like voice chat, online play, all that kind of stuff. They're kind of crap at like the video game aspect of video games. But what they do, and they do it so well, and Mario Kart's a great example, is Nintendo is a toy company who happens to make video games. And they make the best toys. And then people are still buying Elmos, since the days of Tickle Me Elmo. And they just every so often make them more interesting with a new hat or whatever. And it's just like, we've got this perfect product that is Mario Kart 8. We could fuck it up by making Mario Kart 9. Or we can, give you twice as many tracks. And I and my girlfriend have started playing Mario Kart again for the first time in years. And they know what they're doing. You're right, Jack. They don't want to, but it's because they're a toy company and they just they do the weird thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, I'll just throw out another example just for quickly. Pokemon. Pokemon for years didn't change. It was the exact same thing. Go into grass, find a Pokemon, battle it. There you go. You had your trainers and everything else like that. But at the same time, it shows how if Nintendo ends up being a stickler for keeping with the same, it can get very, very stale. Again, Pokemon being the prime example. Look at how many people are praising Legends Arceus just for changing it up a little bit. You've still got your basic Pokemon game, but everything else has changed. Graphically, it doesn't look great, but at the same time, seeing 3D Pokemon out in the field and you actually get to go around and research them, something like Monster Hunter, perfection right there,
Absolutely. And I guess, guys, we're getting close to the hour, so I guess we'll kind of wrap around to one of the last points here. Is what's next? So like we've seen, as we said earlier, Sony buy Bungie, and that screams to me anyway of buying tech, you know, and that company is just missing an element, a key element. Like, just I know I'm speaking to the choir here and speaking the obvious, but you know, this is a company which specializes in first-person over-the-shoulder action games primarily, and we want to do the Destiny thing, we want to do the Fortnite thing, we want to do whatever. Buy somebody in the industry that's really good at it. Cool. What's next? Who's next? Like, what company? So Microsoft, Nintendo, whoever. Like, what company is missing something? And what do we think could be their next move? Because we are living in a very interesting landscape where all of a sudden, like, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, they don't just have like really cool IP. All of a sudden they're buying talent that's like technology based, that's like, you know, idea based. And you know, what kind of cool shit are we going to see in the near future?
Yeah, it reminds me of like back in the early PS3 days. I think I brought this up before when like I remember the first time I heard about like billions of quid in gaming was like Sony bought Gaikai.
That's right.
A cloud company, a cloud computing company back in the early PS3 days, and everyone was like, "What's cloud computing? What the hell does this even mean?"
That's right.
And then like I never followed the story, so I don't ever know what really happened with Gaikai and what they probably integrated for
PlayStation Now.
Plus and now, okay, yeah. PlayStation Now. There you go.
That's what they made.
That kind of thing. So it is like you literally have to look at what does a company need. Like there is the obvious, like you said, Nintendo could do with like someone who understands voice chat and servers and you know this kind of thing.
Even one
like,
guy, just get one guy in there.
yeah, even one guy, but like I don't know, like Sony's roster of kind of story-driven, kind of big AAA stuff is fairly on the level. They don't really need to look into that department a whole lot right now until their stuff starts getting stale. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, people will start going, right, Sony, it's the same like 5 games with different characters.
But like you know, it says fucking volumes, and I'm cursing a lot this episode. I apologize, but it says volumes that you know Microsoft bought all these studios. And there's all these games coming now to a Microsoft console near you. PlayStation has had nothing on it for months, and Horizon is out tomorrow as of recording, and the whole world has stopped to witness Horizon and get that game, and everybody who owns a PS5 is going to buy it, and they still have that crazy attach rate to their third-person single-player games or whatever.
And they're still selling consoles hand over fist when they're in stock as well. Like, you know what I mean? People are snapping up PS5s left, right, and center, even though there's fuck all to play on it.
Brand loyalty.
That's where, like I was saying earlier on about, like, you know, I think the indie industry is going to like thrive and stuff like that because you're going to have these guys leaving these companies that will want to do new projects. It was like, you know, Kojima when he left Konami and Sony bought him up, and he made Death Stranding, and everyone like. Anyone who's finished that game knows how good it is. Anyone who played it for 3 hours thinks it's terrible. It's one of the best games ever.
Yeah, I played a lot more than 3 hours, and I can tell you, sir, I did not enjoy it.
You are a terrible. You're a terrible pizza man then. But yeah, like
James with Death Stranding.
You've got Horizon tomorrow. You've got the God of War series. Sony buy up they buy up stories. They buy up genre, like a whole genre of game. Where it's based around, you know, the first person experience. We were talking about, you know, who's next. I think, and it's just, I'm going to throw it out there, and I think Sony are going to buy them, and I think it's Bandai Namco.
Yes,
I can see
Nandai
that, yeah.
Bamco.
Nandai Bamco, yours for, drum roll please, 15 billion.
15 billion.
15 billion.
There is a lot underneath that umbrella.
There's a lot, yeah, especially in terms of like Japanese, Eastern kind of games and game development and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Can I make one last dystopian point about Game Monopolies before we bounce out of here?
Oh, Shane, I wouldn't have it any other way.
So, I can see the thing with Microsoft buying Activision is very similar mindset to like TV streaming services at the moment. They all want the next Game of Thrones. It's the reason Amazon is making a Lord of the Rings TV show. It's the reason like Netflix go, here's fucking, you know, whatever amount of money to make a whatever TV show. It's names. It's like, get the names. The names will bring the people. But my other dystopian point about Game Monopolies is when do we turn into like a Marvel? Like, when do we go, oh, you're not going to know what's happening in the new Call of Duty World War II game if you didn't play the spin-off game Call of Duty Berlin Knights, you know, and you're like, when do we get there where there's all this cross-synergization of, well, we can make spin-off games that follow a character from this game, and then there'll be
what was stopping them doing that before, though? Like, every big franchise has spin-offs.
One company's done that a lot. And I'm not talking about Konami.
I didn't know that. I don't play a lot of Konami games apart from Metal Gear, really.
Look at Final Fantasy 15.
with the Metal Gear series.
Yeah, Final Fantasy is a bitch for it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
13, 1, 2, and 3.
Consider my point squashed. I don't know. I don't play a lot of
13, 1, 2, and 3 are underrated, in my opinion, as well.
Oh, no, I agree. They are fantastic.
but like, yeah, no, I agree with you, Shane. Like, it's going to be funny to see how that shakes out. The companies, though, that I think, and we've actually mentioned them organically, that I had kind of in my, first line draft. Like, I think there's a good chance Kojima Productions will be finally bought out by one of them. You know, because like he is working on something for Microsoft reportedly at the moment. He got heavy funding for Death Stranding from Sony. Like, I know he doesn't want to be a corporate shill, even though he kind of is. Like, all of his games like are full of advertising and shit. But the reality of it is, if somebody like Phil Spencer can step in and say, here's like a constant flow of money all the time in the world, and we'll let you do what you want. Like, I can't see Kojima walking away from that, you know.
Yeah. I think it comes down to who buys Konami in terms of Kojima, where it's like a permanent stay, because he has unfinished titles there that he wanted to finish. Like, he wanted to do Silent Hills. He was really behind that and stuff. I do think.
Is that the move though? Do they buy? Does Microsoft, for example, buy Konami and then buy Kojima, and then it's like Obsidian with Fallout. It's like, maybe we get a New Vegas 2 nowadays.
That could be a $10 billion investment.
Easily.
That would be worth.
Yeah.
Whoever does it, it'll threefold straight
if
away.
they made Silent Hills, and if they made like a Metal Gear 6, that would pay off for all of it.
Yeah, and then just give Castlevania back to the right people as well. Like, there are three massive franchises all under one roof. And
I bet you whoever buys one, if Microsoft buys Konami, out of spite, Sony will buy Kojima, and vice versa. Like, or if Sony bought Konami, Microsoft would be throwing money at Kojima.
It'll just be Murphy's Law, even if they weren't doing it intentionally. It'd be like, fucker! Like, Sony bought the other one.
I think it goes the other way. I think whoever buys Konami, the other company buys Capcom.
Ooh, yeah.
I think Capcom is a funny one. I've thought about Capcom as well, and it makes sense on paper. But I think that Capcom have done incredibly well especially over the last 10 years or 5 years anyway.
The
like, everything they've made recently.
So long.
But look at all their games. Like, look at the re-releases of all the Resident Evils. Yeah. God, I was only thinking about this the other day, and I'm struggling to think of their titles now. But Monster Hunter
is
a big one.
Everything is on point. They have not had a flop in a long time.
They have evolved with time so well.
And like, the RE engine is fucking amazing. I keep saying it on consoles. They've got one of the strongest engines in the business.
It's beautiful.
And that's not something you would have said 10 years ago with them.
No.
Yeah. So they're if they got bought, like, they are the exact example I was talking about earlier, where they're going to bend someone over the table before they'll get anyone out there. But the other one I wanted to mention very quickly was Square Enix. I think Square Enix is in a position to be bought, and I think Sony's the one to do it.
Yeah, I think Sony
another
would be the
Japanese company. Like, I think that they have been struggling a bit, and I think that they've had their own woes as well, like Activision. And I think that, like, if it's ever going to happen, and if anyone was ever going to do it, this is a good feather in Sony's cap,
They have such a long relationship as well with games and stuff,
Well, Japan to Japan as well. Like, they know how to do business with each other,
But the thing is, if they do buy Square Enix, they've got a couple of more studios under Square Enix that they'll be getting as well. So it could be a very good move. But can I go back to the point?
They don't Tomb Raider again.
Yeah, they don't Tomb Raider. They already do exclusives with Final Fantasy and stuff as well. Like, they have
exactly.
It's the right. That would be the right move for them. Did have is it Just Cause as well? Is that also Square Enix?
Yeah,
that's Square Enix.
Yeah, Avalanche Studios or whatever is them. Isn't it the Mad Max game and all that crack?
The Mad Max game was so good, insanely underrated.
Who wins it all though, lads? Who buys EA?
I don't know will EA ever sell. I think
No, I don't think they
Ubisoft
would.
might.
Got that FIFA money.
Yeah. EA makes a incredible amount of money, you know, like, and they are so corporate that they would want the world for it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, make your own console.
The EA box.
But they don't need to, and this is what I was going to touch on earlier. Is, do you know the Netflix comparison? So we talked about, like, you know, and Jack, you brought it up there, or Shane, maybe you brought it up around, well, Amazon has Prime, and they're making the Lord of the Rings, and Netflix has Netflix, and they're making Stranger Things, and then this is that, and
It's
you know,
getting them in.
You get them in, but like you have this problem as a consumer, where all of a sudden I used to be able to just buy a DVD or rent a DVD and I get my fix. But now I have to have like a recurring €7, €8, €15 membership on 5 different platforms, or else I feel like I'm missing out on the things. And this is what's happening now in the industry. Now, Game Pass has been good in the sense that everything that falls under their umbrella, you kind of get it with that one cost, which is lovely. And that's why I hate the idea of them maybe having a tiered system in the future. But if we go down this road, Sony is talking about having their Game Pass pretty soon. Then you would have the Microsoft one. And so then all of a sudden, all right, I need to have these 2 subscriptions. So that's like £30 a month right there. And then Ubisoft already has one. EA has one as well. And I'm pretty sure you can guarantee, to come back to your point, James, make your own console. They don't need to. Because the second that Microsoft figures out how to get Game Pass on TVs, like, they are already on a console. It's called your television. You know,
we have
and like,
that.
and
It's called Google Stadia, and it's terrible.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing, is that Microsoft is working on actually implementing Game Pass, not the streaming element. The streaming element could already be done today. The actual, like, like you would have a hard drive built into your TV and then at that point, that's it.
Actually, to circle back to another point, just super, like 10 seconds. When we said earlier on about the Microsoft tiered system, you know, Ubisoft has their own streaming service.
Yes,
I was reading recently that they're going into partnership with Game Pass, but it's not included in your base price. You do have to pay extra for the Ubisoft add-on.
So they're doing
we're already starting with the
it's on its way, lads.
pay your €2 extra and get the Ubisoft bundled in with your Game Pass.
But here's the thing, like, what makes Amazon and Netflix so appealing to get both of them is that you can't walk into a shop and buy Stranger Things. You can't walk into a shop and buy the new Lord of the Rings show. You have to have the streaming thing. Anyway. But, like, you know what I mean. Like, but you can pirate it. You can be a dirty pirate,
but,
you know, like me sometimes. But
being a pirate is all it can be.
But you can't walk into CEX and get it for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, or for cheap. And that's what makes you do it. But, like, with Ubisoft, I don't understand, like, who is paying for that? Do you know, like, who is really that strung out to have all the Ubisoft games, like, when they're pretty much a tenner after 3 months? You know?
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
But anyway, we digress. Let's go around the room very quickly and just wrap up our thoughts. Okay, so I said at the very beginning of the show, Shane Bowe, when I say video game monopolies, you say, and you went negative?
Not good.
Not good.
Look, like I said, monopoly is a dirty word and it comes with negative connotations. I think from chatting with you lads, there is some positives that I wasn't seeing that I now see, which is good. And so I don't know.
And negatives.
There is negatives, of course, there's negatives. I'm still, I don't think monopolies are going to work out well in the long run for us as gamers and consumers. Whatever about the guys in suits and the shareholders, they'll make billions. We won't. And it's going to suck. I see the dystopian, like, cyberpunk future already coming, you know, with everything. And I want to add real quick to your closing remarks. So when you're giving your closing remarks, I'm going to do it here now, and I'd like the rest of you to do it too. Name a company and who you think should buy it. Just no explanation, no none. Okay? I think Roblox, and I think Microsoft.
That could be a big gap.
That could
cost a lot of money, but
don't they already have Mojang?
Yes.
God, they do own Microsoft.
They didn't really have the monopoly on the monopoly.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they would. The money.
Who owns Monopoly?
The money that Roblox makes
Hasbro.
is unbelievable.
There we go. Buy Hasbro.
Hasbro.
Ubisoft is it? Ubisoft is
actually, yeah. Ubisoft. It's on the Ubisoft thing. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That and Uno.
And actually,
Uno.
just before we move on to Seamus and Jack's point, that's something I was meant to talk about and I forgot. Is that, like, Shane, you were saying there, it's not going to be good in the long run. And I remember earlier we were saying Phil Spencer is fine now, but what happens down the road?
Mm-hmm.
We have seen time and time again, especially with Microsoft and Sony, hubris is a massive thing. And the second that they're in front, they take it for advantage and they fuck it up, and the other company gets out ahead of them because they made some dumb decision because they thought they couldn't fail. It happens again every year. They swap sides. Every generation, I should say, they swap sides. What happens when everybody switches over to Microsoft for Game Pass? This is when Phil Spencer sheds his human-like skin and reveals the burning red devil that's underneath him. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to cover off. But Maroxide, Seamus, my man, earlier I said to you, when I say gaming monopolies, you say, and then you kind of obviously give us a negative thing there too. But have we changed your mind at all? How do you feel after this conversation?
No, like as I kind of said earlier, I still think as for gaming as a whole and for archiving of gaming, it's a terrible thing. But I can see it from, you know, a rising indie industry will come from this. We'll have new companies form. We'll have this, that, and the other. And hopefully with that comes a new genres, new ideas for games and stuff like that we haven't seen before. But I don't think anything... I don't know. I just feel like anything that we enjoy now won't be as polished next time around.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. And Shane, what was that thing you asked us to do?
Oh, just name a studio and who you'd like to buy it. Just no explanation. Just.
Oh well, Konami and Sony.
There you go.
There we go. Although I do want Microsoft to do it because I think Microsoft will give them more creative freedom.
They already have such good rapport with Kojima. I don't know. That's for me.
Oh, that's the thing, actually. Yeah, sure. If Sony, yeah, that's true. Anyway, Jack, when I say video game monopolies, you said something negative. Also, I can't remember. I must write these things down in the future.
I said I like money.
You like money. That was it. Yes, that was it. And how do you feel now after our discussion?
Honestly, I'm still kind of the same opinion, even after all that. Like, there has been some great points made by everybody, and like I can see where people are coming from. But to just go back to a point that Shane made a little while ago, and I know this is a while back, but if two separate companies were to buy the likes, like if Microsoft buy Konami and Sony Kojima, there's a possibility that they could end up trying to work together nearly, just because of that whole cross-platform thing that I was saying about earlier. It's a possibility. Not saying it's definitely going to happen, but it could start the ball rolling in the case of getting these companies together and actually using their strengths together to put out better games. Sure. Now, again, probably won't happen because of the way that they all like money and they all want money for themselves. But I'm holding out hope for it.
Hold out hope for a hero, my man.
That's something else, all right.
Single player games are gonna die.
In regards to what gaming company I'd like to see, probably PlayStation or Sony buying Square Enix.
Yep. I think that would be a super good move. The only thing is, like, I wonder would that save anything? 30
years has been fantastic as well, though.
Yeah.
Their general relationship over the last 30 years, I said, it's been fantastic anyway.
I know it has been, but at the same time, I'd still like to see that relationship kind of go a little bit further. Like, I know recently Sony have kind of gone a bit kind of heavy on the censorship and stuff like that. Never really affected Final Fantasy too much, but at the same time, I don't know. I'd like to see it happen, but who knows?
Yeah. Yep. And the only thing that would worry me about whether that will ever happen or not now is just the sheer success of 14. You know, like I'd say that's after putting a lot of money back into their bank accounts. You know, but if that hadn't taken off the way it did, absolutely. But like, I think if that hadn't taken off the way it did recently, they would be begging somebody to buy them because things were not looking good there. But yeah, I think myself, I came in here pretty grey. I'm leaving pretty grey. I think that there is a lot of positives that can be rinsed out of this, but I think it is obvious that there is negatives. But I think that we've looked at a lot of interesting angles here. I do want to say, of course, that as per usual, we as a podcast, and not speaking for any of the individuals, but we generally try to stand behind the workers, the people on the boots on the ground that don't get their praise or whatever. Like if these types of things, in Activision Blizzard in particular, and even Bethesda had their troubles too, and any of these other companies, like if this acquisition of money changing hands is the only reason that these people get some rights or whatever. All for that. So that is something like I have to just keep reminding myself of. But in general, of course, we are going to get to that hubris break point where Microsoft thinks that like, oh, we've conquered gaming and now we're going to release a stupid $9,000 console that only plays satellite TV and whatever. Like, they're going to do it again. You know, they did it after the 360. They're going to do it again.
And Phil Spencer will unleash his inner Lisa Simpson. I am the Lizard Queen!
Yes, he will actually rip open his top and a laser shall fire out of his chest and destroy half of the moon. I've seen it.
The strangest E3 ever.
All I can think
But the
right
best
now
one.
is One Piece.
The most memorable one. But yeah, I think only time will tell for this Baba industry that we love so very much. But with that, guys, we're going to take it home. So I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to have people say goodbye. So first of all, I'm going to go to Shane Bowe, say goodbye to the lovely folks.
Goodbye, lovely folks. Thanks for listening and watching and all that jazz.
Very good. Very poignant. And we were joined for the first time by Seamus Maroxide. Maroxide, do you want to let folks know where they and when and whatever they can find you?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on, lads. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Where you can find me, it's just Maroxide everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. I don't know. I do actually want to put out a challenge though while I'm here. I'll take everyone in this call on. I've taken on Jack once. I had a YouTube series called Fight Me for a Fiver. And
are you going to ask us to fight you?
You and I didn't actually fight for a fiver though.
We'll have a virtual fight for a fiver. Don't worry. If you lose, I only get bragging rights. So the fiver's only there for you to grab.
I've got a virtual bad back though, you know.
Yeah. It's a trigger finger problem.
What's fight me for a fiver?
It's just a show literally where I pick random creators and guests and stuff, and literally we'll play anything. I've played Gang Beasts with people, I've played Brawlhalla, whatever. Just something that, you know, is simple for both parties to have, or if they either have it or something it's handy to get our hands on. And could be Tekken. We could have a few bouts, and it's like, if you beat me, I will give you €5. But if I win, I just get bragging rights. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I could go for 2 cans of Monster. Yeah.
Sugar prices, you know, taxes. Can and a half now.
They'll get you. But no, yeah, absolutely. Like, coming to a space near you, run, don't walk, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, absolutely, throw that challenge out. Throw that gauntlet down. Damn it.
It's there for
But with that, your details will be in the description below. Should anybody want to find you and catch up on that, fight me for a fiver. And last of all, but of course not least, we have the Platinum Jack. Jack O'Mahony, tell us, where can people find you?
Let me start off by saying thank you for having me back after so long. It's been a while, and well, as you said yourself, I've moved and a load of other stuff has kind of happened to where I couldn't be on for a while. But it's good to be on an episode for the first time in a while. But
it warms my heart.
But if anybody wants to find me, it's twitch.tv, the Platinum Jack, and the Platinum and Jack are both separated by underscores. And you can find me on Twitter at the Platinum Jack with no underscores. It's typically where you'll see my platinums whenever I do get them.
Super. Yeah, and you do get a lot of them. Both of the links to all of the lads' stuff will be down below in the description. So just look down there and click on the thing and you'll see the boys. And they're beautiful, they're lovely. Click on the thing. Go now. It's the end of the show. You can leave now. So with that, thanks again for joining us. If you have never been here before, welcome. You stumbled across what was by far the most casual video game podcast on the interwebs, a casual gamecast, if you will. And if you did come back, thank you for that. Your support is amazing. Please do give the show a like, give it a review, give it a share, and most importantly, tell your friends. Now, Seamus, we have a tradition around here where we ask the guests to tell the people at home, the beautiful, beautiful people at home, the literal tens of listeners at home, to go out and tell somebody in their society, in their community, about the Casual Gamecast. Not only to share it with a friend, but to share it with a stakeholder that's out there in the community. Who this week should they tell?
Well, I think, with, you know, the fact that it's starting to get brighter outside and, you know, we're getting longer days. When you're out for a walk, the first person you see with a dog, tell them.
Nice. I can get behind that.
Yeah, tell the dog people. Just make
Because
sure it's
they're
not
already
like a
out
big
there-
angry dog.
They're
But
already out and walking, and they can just stick it on and walk along and listen to us talk.
that's actually a really good shout.
Yeah, that's very good. Very
Can't
good.
There we go. There we go. Get out there and look for those Madra people. Tell them all.
Except for today or tomorrow, because there's a storm apparently.
Yes,
Yeah,
don't-
there's
don't
supposedly
go
a
out in the
bad
storm
storm
as well.
coming.
Well, by the time they hear this, we will have lived in a post-storm world where all of our roofs have been ripped off of our houses, and it's going to be amazing.
I'm terrified.
With that,
I've got a bedroom
I've been
above
Phil,
me,
he's
I'm
been
alright.
Shane, he's been Jack, he's been Seamus. Thank you for joining us again on episode 71, I think, of the Casual Gamecast. Take care, guys. Good luck.
Bye. Bye.